That night, I found a hidden chamber beneath Foster House, the orphanage that raised me. On the walls, hundreds of tiny claw marks, and one message scrawled in blood, "Save us." Then I saw my name on a list of child experiments. Memories flooded back. I had been trained as a guardian for a secret organization lurking in the shadows. If you think this is just another family story, you're dead wrong. Subscribe now so you won't miss the next chilling episodes from us. It's raining again, but this rain is not the gentle patter of early summer on tar-shingled rooftops, or the comforting drizzle that brings the scent of wet earth and pine through cracked open bedroom windows. No, this is the cold, relentless, unyielding rain that drowns out sirens, erases footprints, and turns the fields around Foster House into a churned sea of mud and shadows. The sky above suburban Vancouver, a blue-black bruise, glowers down at a scene that will not make the morning news for long. Not even the thunder dares interrupt the work of the fire. The Foster House is burning. It stands at the end of a gravel road that vanishes into the forest, a lonely two-story Victorian with paint flayed off by decades of wind and weather. Its empty eyes, the upstairs windows, flicker with orange light. Flames, hungry and eager, chew through the roof, climb the siding, lash out like wild animals set loose. The old gable's groan beams crack and collapse inward, a slow-motion burial. By the time the first red lights slice through the rain and the fire engines scream to a halt in the road's muddy ditch, it's already too late for most of the house. Smoke billows in thick, choking curtains, clawing for the treetops. The whole world seems cast in a palette of ash iron and fear. And out front, right at the edge, where the grass turns to blackened earth, a figure appears in the chaos. A little boy, no more than 7, shivering so hard, his teeth chatter. He's barefoot, his pajamas streaked with soot and blood, a single wool blanket clutched around his shoulders like a lifeline. His hair is plastered to his forehead, dark with sweat, and his eyes, impossibly wide, reflect the inferno behind him. He stands there, frozen, a relic carved from terror. Detective Samuel Hayes, a man who has seen too many of these nights, is the first to spot the child. He's been here before. Not this house, not this boy, but this kind of night. A house on fire, a child who survived, and too many questions that will never be answered. He crouches in the mud, flashing a penlight, and says the boy's name, gently. "Mason. Mason Carter, can you hear me?" Mason doesn't answer. His eyes are fixed on the front porch, where flames snake up the banister, and a window explodes, showering the grass with burning shards. Behind the detective, firefighters surge past in heavy yellow gear, shouldering hoses, their voices muffled by the relentless downpour and the groan of collapsing timbers. One of them, a rookie with hands too big for his gloves, stumbles over something in the yard. A battered stuffed rabbit soaked through and blackened on one side. He picks it up, glances at the detective, and tucks it into a plastic bag, not knowing it is the only possession Mason has left. Hayes wraps the blanket tighter around Mason and tries again, this time with a steadiness he doesn't feel. "You're safe now, son. We're going to take you somewhere warm. Can you tell me if anyone else is inside?" Still nothing. The boy doesn't look at him. He doesn't seem to hear the crackle of the fire or the barking of orders. He just keeps staring at the house. For a moment, Hayes wonders if Mason will ever speak again. A paramedic arrives, an older woman with graying hair and tired hands. She kneels in the mud, takes Mason's wrist, and murmurs softly as she checks his pulse. She finds blood on his palm, fresh, not his own. She exchanges a glance with Hayes, questions forming in the silence. In the darkness, beyond the ruined porch, there is movement. A firefighter drags a second child, this one. A girl, her face hidden behind a curtain of tangled hair from the smoke. She's limp but alive, coughing and gasping. The paramedic rushes to help as the detective lifts Mason, who finally stirs, trying to look back at the house. He almost says something, lips parting, breath hitching, but the word never forms. Instead, he points a trembling finger at an upstairs window, just as it vanishes behind a roar of fire. From that window, for the briefest, strangest instant, a face appears, a pale oval. 2 hollow eyes glimmering in the orange light. A woman, her features twisted with fear and something deeper, older. Her hair hangs in wet strings, and she presses her palm against the glass. Her lips move silent, framing a single word lost in the night. Mason. The glass cracks. A tongue of fire licks across her face. Then she's gone, erased by smoke and flame. Hayes sees it too, and so does the paramedic, but later in the official statements, neither will mention the woman in the window. There is too much else to explain the impossibility of a stranger in a locked house, the mystery of the two children no one can fully identify, and the records from Foster House spotty handwritten, inconsistent, sometimes erased, sometimes rewritten. Only 2 children are found alive that night. The rest, if there were more, are never found. As dawn creeps over the pines, the house is reduced to a skeleton, still smoldering rain mixing with ash, muddy water running in rivulets through the cinders. The police tape flutters in the morning wind. Reporters arrive hungry for a headline, but there is nothing to say. The story is a dead end. There is no family to call. The case, one of the officers mutters, will be closed before anyone even remembers it opened. The detectives take statements from the neighbors, but no one saw anything except the fire. No one remembers the woman in the window. In the police station, Mason is given a new blanket, a cup of cocoa, and a set of clothes much too big for him. The girl, her name is never made public, clings to a pillow and doesn't speak. Social services try to coax stories from them, but all they get are silent stares and haunted eyes. In a back office, Detective Hayes sits down at his desk and writes the words that will close the file for forever. Only 2 survivors. No further leads. Case closed. He stares at the form, hesitates, then adds a single line. Boy may have witnessed additional persons in house, requires follow-up. But no one will ever follow up. The file goes into a cabinet and is never opened again. Back at the Foster property, the last embers fade. The house is nothing but scorched timber and memory. In the wreckage, a single upstairs window stands unbroken but blackened, reflecting nothing but the empty sky. In its glass, just for a moment, the outline of a face no longer visible, but lingering, waiting. The rain finally stops, leaving the world washed but not clean. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the police station's lights, Mason Carter lies awake, the scent of smoke forever stitched into his dreams, and wonders what became of the woman in the window. The woman whose eyes found his through the fire, whose voice he will one day chase into the heart of darkness, where the answers hide waiting to be named. 25 years. A quarter century can swallow a lifetime or so. Mason Carter tells himself. Each night he presses his thumb against the tender scar along his ribcage. The one no X-ray has ever explained, the one he suspects was not given to him by fire or flying debris, but by memory itself. He is 32 now, lean and restless, with eyes that dart constantly from shadow to light, as if expecting something to reach for him from the darkness. Vancouver's skyline glows through his window, a cold, dazzling thicket of glass and ambition. But inside his cramped apartment, time loops endlessly between then and now. He is not the man he presents to the world. A tenacious investigative journalist, all quick wit and sharper tongue, infamous among the city's bureaucrats for refusing to let lost children remain statistics. For the last 8 years, Mason's byline has been attached to headlines that have blown the covers off corrupt orphanages, trafficking rings, missing person cases cold for decades. Some call him obsessed. Some call him a hero. Most don't know that at 3 a.m, Mason wakes screaming, tangled in sweat-soaked sheets, convinced he's still trapped in a burning room. The nightmares never change. Always the house, always the fire. He is running barefoot through choking smoke, hands outstretched, reaching for someone he cannot see. There are voices pleading, terrified, echoing behind walls he cannot break. Sometimes the face of the woman in the window blazes at the heart of the fire, her eyes locking on his as she mouths a word he cannot hear. Sometimes her hands press against the glass palms, streaked with something red. Sometimes blood, sometimes only the reflection of flames. He wakes with her name or a name dying on his lips. In the silence that follows, he listens for a music box tune, faint and insistent, weaving through the static of his mind. The city is cold in April, the air sharp with the promise of rain. Mason stands at his living room window, watching headlights smear across the wet street below, listening to the clatter of the SkyTrain overhead. On his coffee table, a stack of files. His current case, a girl vanished from a suburban bus stop, her backpack found abandoned on a park bench. Mason has combed through the evidence for weeks, hunting for a pattern no one else seems to see. Something about the arrangement of her books in the bag, the loop of ribbon tied around a pen, the way her shoes were left pointed toward the woods, it all nags at him like a melody he can't quite place. He's about to start a fresh pot of coffee when the buzzer rings. Not the doorbell, Mason hasn't had one since the lock broke last winter, but the building's main entry system, a brittle, rasping buzz that always makes him think of wasps. He glances at the clock, 1:13 a.m., and nearly ignores it. But something in the sound, a stutter just before the tone prickles at the back of his neck. He answers, voice thick from lack of sleep. Yeah, silence. Then barely above the hiss of static, package for Carter. He hangs up without another word, heart pounding. No one delivers at this hour. No one calls him Carter except the bank and his mother's attorney. He throws on a jacket, slips his feet into battered sneakers, and jogs down the hallway. The elevator is broken, so he bounds the stairs 2 at a time, the familiar ache in his left knee flaring. By the time he reaches the lobby, the street door hangs ajar, letting in a gust of rain and the faint scent of exhaust. No one is there. But on the worn tile floor just inside the entrance sits a small brown parcel, the kind used for old books or delicate antiques. There is no return address, no stamp, only his name. Mason Carter, printed in block letters, perfectly centered. He hesitates. Years of training have made him suspicious of every unexpected package, every unmarked envelope. But this feels different, more intimate, more deliberate, as if whoever sent it knew exactly what it would do to him. He tucks it under his arm, locks the door, and climbs back to his apartment, adrenaline burning through the last remnants of sleep. Inside, he sets the box on the table and examines it. The tape is old, yellowed at the edges, but carefully applied. He grabs a knife, slices along the seam, and peels the flaps back. The first thing he sees is a layer of newspaper, brittle and faded, dated August 13th, 1997, one day before the fire at Foster House. Headlines about a political scandal, a missing dog, and in the bottom corner, a small article, local orphanage to host summer carnival. Mason's heart stutters. He lifts the paper, hands suddenly shaking, and reveals what lies beneath. A music box, small, wooden, intricately carved. The lacquer has dulled with age, but the inlaid pattern, a circle of tiny roses around a single dark eye, remains precise. Mason swallows. He knows this box. He knows it with the kind of certainty that crawls up from the bones, the kind that belongs to things you survive, not things you remember. He turns it over in his hand, runs his thumb across the bottom. Their faint but unmistakable are 3 letters, FHC, Foster House Care. He closes his eyes, breathing in shallow bursts. When he opens them, he finds an envelope nestled beside the music box. No writing, just a single smeared fingerprint in a rusty brown. Inside the envelope, a photograph curled at the edges, the paper rough between his fingers. He holds it up to the lamplight and stares. It's the house, of course. The Foster house, its peaked roof and sagging porch, unmistakable even after decades. The photo is taken from the edge of the yard. Just as twilight thickens, he can tell by the haze along the treetops. The house looks empty, abandoned, except in the second-floor window. There, backlit by a pale golden glow, stands a woman. Her face is obscured by reflection, but her posture is unmistakable. One hand pressed to the glass, shoulders hunched, the curve of her head caught in the slant of evening sun. But it's her eyes, those impossible, haunted eyes, staring straight at the camera, that root Mason to the floor. He almost drops the photo. On the back, written in a looping, elegant hand, one word: remember. The room tilts. For a moment, Mason feels as if he's falling backward through time, into the maw of the fire, into the shriek of a woman's voice calling his name. He sits hard on the couch, staring at the photo, the music box, the newspaper. His mind spins with questions. Who sent this? Why now? How did they know? But the answer is already coiling through his veins, hot and undeniable. He is not done with Foster House. Foster House is not done with him. He spends the rest of the night at his desk pulling out files he thought he'd buried for good. His own copy of the police report, obtained under the guise of a journalist's curiosity years ago, but never fully read. His foster care intake forms, stamped with red ink, no next of kin. Ward of the province. A blurry photograph of himself at age 7 clutching a blanket, eyes empty as broken glass. The official story is thin, barely 2 pages. A fire of undetermined origin. 2 survivors, a boy, Mason, and an unidentified girl. No mention of the woman in the window. No mention of the music box or the whispers that haunted the investigation for weeks before it was closed. Mason's own statement, if he ever gave one, is missing. Or maybe it never existed. He digs deeper, cross-referencing the foster house with other orphanages closed in the late 90s. A pattern emerges, chilling in its regularity. Sudden fires, missing children cases closed quietly. Buried inside archived newsprint, he finds a string of advertisements. Eden Root, a place to heal, a place to grow. Sometimes the name is spelled Eden Root, sometimes simply Root. He recalls the logo, a tree with roots tangled in the shape of a lock. The sun crawls up the edge of the city, turning the window glass to gold. Mason sits surrounded by open files, red circles connecting orphanages to police precincts, addresses to case numbers. His phone vibrates, a message from his editor demanding a draft by noon. But Mason doesn't care. He is somewhere else now, back in the ash and cinder of his own childhood, searching for a truth that has always eluded him. By noon, he has mapped out every connection he can find between Foster House Eden Root and the missing children who were never found. The map looks like a wound, dark lines radiating from a single point the night of the fire, the moment everything changed. He pulls the music box into his lap, studies the tiny key. He remembers somehow, against all odds, how the song went. He winds it just once and lets the melody play. It's the same tune from his nightmares. Slow, haunting notes falling like rain. He lets it finish, waits, and in the silence that follows, he hears something else, a click almost imperceptible from inside the box. Carefully, Mason pries at the wood until the false bottom lifts. Inside, folded tight, is a scrap of paper yellowed with age. He unfolds it. The words are scrawled in a child's hand, shaky and urgent. They're not gone. Under the floor. Remember the root. E. Mason closes his eyes, chest tight. E. He knows that letter, that signature. Ellie. The girl who was pulled from the house with him, whose name was never entered into any record, who vanished into the foster system and was never heard from again. He stands abruptly, the photo clutched in one fist, the music box in the other. He glances at his map, at the sun blazing through the glass, at the rain that still drums against the city, and makes a silent vow. He will go back to Foster House. He will find Ellie, or the truth of her. He will uncover what lies beneath the floorboards, what was rooted there long before the house burned, long before anyone bothered to ask what happened to the children. No one ever claimed. Somewhere in the city, a woman's eyes, haunted, pleading, wait for him to remember. The hunt has begun. This time he will not let the story die. The listing online didn't show the rot in the wood or the way the trees had crept closer, swallowing what little yard there was left. The real estate photos were shot on a sunny day, the grass dappled with wildflowers, the house itself softened by the forgiving distance of a wide lens. Up close, Foster House was something else entirely. A corpse in a green shroud, bones, blackened flesh peeled back by time and fire. Mason stood in the shadow of the sagging porch, a duffel bag hanging from one shoulder, his fingers curled tight around the photo and music box. The sign swinging from the mailbox read, "For sale as is," but no one in the county wanted it, not really. Not after what had happened. He stepped up the boards, creaking beneath his weight, a flock of crows scattering from the overgrown hedges. The door was held shut with nothing more than a rusted padlock. Mason slid the key the realtor had mailed him, no questions asked. Payment accepted instantly, just sign the waiver into the lock. It snapped open with a protest. The smell hit him, old smoke, mildew, wet earth. He hesitated, letting the memory settle over him. Then he went inside. The hallway was narrower than he remembered, the wallpaper curled and peeling like ancient bark, revealing water-stained plaster beneath. Each step stirred the dust of decades' ash mold, the fine gray silt of what used to be lives. Light fell through a single broken window, illuminating motes that spun lazily in the air. He paused, breathing in the ghosts. He moved room to room, letting the ache in his chest guide him. The kitchen still had the warped linoleum, the counters bowed with water damage. On the counter beneath a collapsed cupboard, he found a child's spoon, the plastic warped and pink half buried in debris. He brushed it off, turned it in his hands, felt the shape of his own childhood imprinting itself against his skin. At the foot of the stairs, he paused. The wood was spongy, the banister missing a spindle. He looked up, half expecting to see a shadow at the landing, a woman's silhouette, her palm pressed to the glass, her lips moving. Instead, he saw only the pale slant of afternoon, the light sliding over floorboards, still scarred by fire. But it was the music that stopped him. Soft, almost imperceptible, coming from somewhere deeper in the house. At first he thought it was his mind playing tricks again, the same old song slow and lilting the melody from the music box. But the box was in his pocket, cold and silent. The song grew louder as he moved toward the back hallway, the walls tightening, the air pressing against his skin. He reached the old parlor, the room they'd used for group time, where he remembered being lined up with the others, hands on heads, eyes on the floor, a voice demanding, "Tell me what you learned." The wallpaper was black with mold now, the fireplace choked with debris, but the sound was clearer here. He knelt and pressed his ear to the floor. The music was coming from below, the basement. The memories flickered fast and sharp. Cold stone under his feet, the scrape of a metal chair, the voice of a man low and clipped again. He forced himself up, found the basement door at the end of the hall. The knob was missing. Only a blank plate with a keypad, new out of place in the ruin, waited for him. The metal smudged with fingerprints, a narrow slot for a code. He ran his thumb across the pad, thinking back. Numbers surfaced, slow, reluctant, a birthday, a nursery rhyme, the number of children at the table. What was it the director always said? Order is safety. Order is memory. Order is everything. The keypad blinked red, then green. He tried the only code he remembered, loving 0813 the day before the fire. The lock clicked, shuddered, then opened with a reluctant sigh. The door groaned as he pushed it open. A rush of cold, damp air swept past him. Mason flicked on his flashlight, its narrow beam barely slicing through the black. The stairs were treacherous, half-eaten by rot. He descended slow in careful boots, sinking into the spongy wood. With each step, the music grew louder until he could make out the tune, sweet and sad, threaded with a kind of hope that twisted in his gut. The basement was not large, but it felt endless. Shadows clung to the walls. The far corner was a cave of debris, burned beams, a melted plastic chair, the warped frame of a child's bed. On the wall above, someone had drawn a tree, its roots tangled and wild, a child's scrawl in charcoal. He moved toward the center, letting the flashlight dance over the mess. There, half buried in a drift of ash, was an old cassette player. Miraculously unbroken, its batteries long dead. The tape inside, labeled Sing 1, had been rewound and played until the label was nearly gone. Mason lifted it, hands trembling, and for a moment the memory struck with the force of a blow. A chorus of children's voices, high and wavering, singing a lullaby in rounds. When the night is cold and long, root will keep you safe and strong. The lyrics fizzed through his head, sparking images. A girl with braids clutching a blanket. A boy, face smeared with jam, pressing his hands to his ears. The director standing in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. Always watching. He felt something in his pocket, a key, rough and old. He didn't remember packing it, but it was there, heavy as a stone. He looked around, scanning the floor. At the far wall, behind a stack of ruined boxes, he saw a metal hatch, low and wide, the paint flaked to nothing. There was a lock, rusted but intact, the shape oddly familiar. Mason crouched, heart thumping. He tried the key. It stuck, then turned with a shriek of protest. The hatch opened onto a crawl space no more than 3 feet high. The air inside was thick, sour, heavy with secrets. He forced himself in, dragging the flashlight along. The walls were covered in drawings, some childish, some almost frantic. Butterflies' eyes, trees with twisted roots. Names were scratched into the wood, dozens of them layered over each other. Some half-erased Ellie. Max, Lila, Sam. At the end, a message. Remember us? He crawled forward, breath shallow. In the back of the space, he found a pile of blankets, threadbare and stiff, and beneath them, a notebook, its cover sticky with soot. He opened it. Inside, a child's handwriting, jagged and wild. The bad place is under the ground. If you see the eyes, don't look. If you hear the song, don't sing. His pulse hammered in his ears. The song was louder now, a record skipping the same line over and over. Root will keep you safe and strong. Suddenly, he was a child again. Kneeling in the dark, hugging his knees to his chest, listening to the others cry in the night. Someone crawling past, whispering his name. A hand small and cold grabbing his. "Don't forget me," the voice said, but he couldn't see the face. He tried to call out, but the words turned to ash. He jerked back into the present, panting. The music stopped. Silence thick and absolute. He slid from the crawl space, shivering. The cassette player was dead. The hatch gaped behind him like a mouth. He wiped his hands on his jeans, fingers shaking the notebook still clutched tight. He turned, and in the circle of the flashlight, something moved, a shape too tall to be a child, too thin to be a man. A woman, hair hanging over her face, eyes, two voids reflecting the beam. She raised her hand, pressing her palm to the wall, lips moving in a silent plea. Mason blinked, and she was gone. Only the outline of a handprint remained smeared in ash. He staggered back, found the stairs, and fled up them, heart in his throat. At the top, he slammed the basement door and leaned against it, gasping. But he knew he would go back down. He knew the answers were still there, waiting in the dark. The past was not done with him yet. Foster House was not done with him yet. Outside, the wind rattled the windows. The crows had returned, perching in the black branches, watching. In the failing light, Mason held the notebook, the music box, and the memory of a song he could not forget, each one. A key to a story buried beneath the floorboards, waiting to be unearthed. He'd always thought the cold in the Foster House basement came from outside a draft, through the cracked foundation, or the chill that lived in stone long after the fire. But as Mason pressed his palm to the splintered wall and let the silence settle, he realized the cold was older than weather. It was a cold made of memory and fear. He stepped further into the gloom, his flashlight trembling as he swept it along the walls. The beam caught the glint of glass, a broken jar, and then the stains on the concrete, old brownish, shaped in sick patterns that could only have been made by something alive. Blood. Not fresh, not sharp with iron, but still potent enough to make his stomach clench. Here, by the edge of a rotted mattress, a dark spray trailed toward the wall, as if someone had crawled or been dragged away from safety. The toys were everywhere, half buried in debris, some melted by heat, others gnawed by time. A plastic car with its wheels warped into a frown. A doll's arm, no body. A puzzle piece, faded edges, burnt. Each seemed to pulse with loss. Each was a memory left behind. Mason reached down and picked up a cracked yo-yo, turning it in his hand. There was a name written on the side in chipped nail polish, Ellie. He felt the world tilt. Ellie. The girl from the crawl space, the notebook. The name that clung to his childhood like smoke. The walls were a chaos of color and dread. Even in the dying light, Mason could make out drawings scrawled everywhere. Some childish, others frantic, almost violent. There were trees, their roots twisting downward in black crayon, sometimes turning into claws or faces. There were eyes, dozens of them, staring out of every corner, watchful, accusing, desperate. Some were red, some blue, some drawn over in frantic loops. Above the shattered remains of a dresser, one message had been scratched deep into the plaster, the letters nearly gouged through. See me, save me. He moved carefully, heart pounding, careful not to disturb the brittle piles of what used to be bed sheets, a shoe with the tongue torn out. He knelt near a corner where the darkness seemed to thicken and reached into the debris. His fingers closed on something solid, a small book, the cover tattered and soft with mold. When he opened it, the scent of mildew and old ink filled the air. The first page read in shaky, childish print. If you are reading this, please help us. My name is Ellie. The bad people come at night. They say if we make a sound, we go to the roots. He felt the breath stutter in his chest. The pages were filled with more of the same lists of names, half-finished drawings of faces. Notes that dissolved into scrawled loops, then picked up again. Leela stopped singing. Max was taken away. I hear them in the walls. They make us be quiet. On the last page, the handwriting devolved into near gibberish. Only a single sentence was clear, written 3 times over. If you find me, tell my mom I tried. Mason closed the notebook, knuckles white around the cover. For a moment, he just knelt there, breathing in the stale air, trying to feel something besides the cold. But there was only a growing sense of urgency, like the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for him to move. The flashlight swept over the far wall, catching on something metallic. An old tape recorder half buried under a pile of broken blocks and splintered wood. He pulled it free, shaking the dust loose. The machine was heavy built, in the 1980s, the kind with chunky red buttons and a cracked handle. He pressed eject. Miraculously, there was a cassette inside the label, half-peeled but readable, Session 9. His thumb hesitated above the play button. Then he pressed it. The wheels spun, the tape hissed, and then the basement filled with voices, thin, frightened, wavering in the static. Are we safe? A girl's voice, young but not small. Shh. Don't talk when he's here. A pause, then footsteps, measured, deliberate. Another voice, deeper, unmistakably adult. Calm, but with an edge that promised danger. Children, it's time to learn the rhyme. Repeat after me. Root keeps you safe. Root keeps you quiet. Root keeps you inside. If you go outside, you won't come back. A sob. The sound of someone trying not to cry. The adult voice again, colder now. No more mistakes. Eden Root cannot survive the light. Do you understand? Murmured Yes's shaky barely above a whisper. The tape clicked a stutter in the recording. The next section was different. It sounded like the recorder had been hidden, voices, muffled footsteps coming and going in a distant hall. He said they took Max. Don't say his name. They'll hear you. I want to go home. A shuffling sound. We can't go home. There is no home. Only roots and eyes. Mason rewound the tape, fingers trembling, desperate to hear more. He played it again, straining for any detail. An accent, a background sound, anything that might identify the adults or give him a clue to where they took the children. Suddenly a door slammed. The recording spiked a burst of static. Then the adult voice returned, but now it was almost gentle, like a teacher coaxing a lesson. You are all here for a reason. The world outside doesn't want you. But the roots do. The roots love you. If you love them back, you'll never be alone. Then softer. If anyone finds this recording, know that you were warned. Eden Root must never exist outside the dark. The tape ended with a scrape, the sound of the recorder being yanked away, a faint gasp, then silence. Mason sat back numb. The truth, whatever shape it took, was so much worse than he'd imagined. Foster House hadn't just been a failed orphanage or a tragic accident. It had been a laboratory, a machine for grinding hope into silence. The drawings on the wall seemed to shift in the flicker of his flashlight. The eyes multiplied, all watching him, all demanding something he wasn't sure he could give. The roots in the drawings tangled together, crawling down to the floor as if they were searching for a way out. He followed them, tracing the lines with his finger, until he reached a crack in the concrete, narrow, deep, and stained with something darker than water. He pressed his ear to the crack, and for a moment he thought he heard voices. Children singing the same lullaby from the tape over and over. Root keeps you safe. Root keeps you quiet. Root keeps you inside. He pulled back, breath ragged. This was more than trauma. This was more than a crime. It was a secret that had been built into the bones of the house, a secret that wanted to stay hidden. He flipped through Ellie's notebook again, searching for anything that might help him find her or any of the others. Near the back, scribbled in the corner, was a list: Ellie, Max, Lila, Sam, Anna, Mason. His own name written by someone else's hand from a time he barely remembered. The urge to run was strong. But stronger was the obligation, the responsibility to see this through. To follow the trail of blood in ink, roots, and eyes to whatever end waited in the dark. He pocketed the notebook and the tape, then paused to take a final look at the room. The shadows on the walls seemed to twitch as he moved. For a split second he thought he saw movement, a small form, darting behind the broken dresser, a whisper of hair, the flash of a wide, terrified eye. He called out Ellie. No answer. Only the settling of dust, the click of the tape as it finally gave out, and the low, mournful creak of the house as it settled deeper into the earth. But Mason knew he was not alone. Not here, not now, not ever. The ghosts of Foster House Ellie and the others were with him. Their plea was clear in every line on the wall, every stain on the floor, every tremor in his own chest. If you find me, tell my mom I tried. He rose steady now and swept his flashlight over the room one last time. The eyes watched the roots writhed and the darkness whispered, "Remember." Mason closed the door behind him. His next steps heavier, his mission changed. It wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about the truth and saving whatever might still be trapped in the roots of this house and in the night. He stands at the bottom of the basement stairs, the tape recorder still humming in his palm. The air is thick as syrup, heavier now, almost sentient, a weight pressing in on his ribs, squeezing memory from marrow. For a moment, Mason closes his eyes. That's when it happens. A shudder runs through his body. A tremor that begins in his chest and radiates outward, crawling up his neck and behind his eyes. His knees weaken and the cracked concrete beneath his feet seems to tilt. He grips the banister, breathing shallow, the shadows shifting in the corners of his vision. Then, like water breaking through a rotted dam, the first memory returns. It begins as pain. A sudden raw heat in his shoulder. He's young, maybe 7, his body small and brittle in the iron grip of an adult hand. Someone drags him down a corridor that smells of bleach and wet wool. The walls are yellow peeling, and there is music playing overhead, bright, insipid, too cheerful for the darkness curling inside him. He tries to pull free, his breath hitching, but the hand tightens, nails digging into flesh. He hears crying, not just his own, a chorus echoing from distant rooms, thin, high, hopeless. He's thrown into a chair, the metal freezing through his pajama bottoms. Across from him, a man with hair like steel wire and glasses perched on the end of his nose flips through a clipboard. He never looks Mason in the eye, not once. "What's your name?" Mason tries to answer, but his tongue is thick-mouthed, too dry. He can only manage a whisper, "Mason." The man nods, notes something down. "You're here because you're strong, Mason. You don't cry as much as the others." A flash of guilt. He did cry, he always cried, but only after they turned the lights off. Another voice, this one low, almost a hiss. "Quiet now. If you speak without permission, you go in the box." He remembers the box, the darkness, the pounding in his ears, the strange sweet smell of something rotten. His legs tremble. Someone screams in the hallway. A high, tearing sound abruptly cut off. The clipboard man doesn't react. He simply says, "We don't tolerate noise here. Noise is weakness. Guardians are never weak." The memory fractures. Mason feels himself floating above the scene, a cold, detached observer. He sees himself in the chair, pale and thin, bruises up his arms, eyes swollen and wild. He sees the others, Ellie, Max, Lila, all sitting in a row, hands folded, eyes fixed on the floor. The adults parade before them, reciting the same chant, roots beneath eyes above, guardian hearts, unbreakable love. He's forced to repeat it, the words sandpaper on his tongue. Each time he falters a slap. Each time he looks up, a hand clamps his chin and forces his gaze forward. The flashback deepens. Mason is older now, maybe 9, standing in the hallway outside the special room. He hears footsteps and presses himself flat against the wall, holding his breath. Through the crack in the door, he glimpses the others, 2 boys. One girl lined up in front of a blackboard, scrawled with symbols he doesn't recognize. A tall woman, her hair coiled tight, paces before them, clicking her nails against the chalk. "This is your home now. You will protect it at any cost. If you leave, you will forget. If you tell, you will be lost. Guardians obey. Guardians endure." She points to the board. Name. Each child answers in turn. Status, each replies, waiting for activation. A boy, a friend, Mason thinks. Though the face flickers, half remembered, hesitates. The woman's face darkens. "Come forward." She leads him out down a corridor lined with doors. The boy never comes back. After the children are herded into a dormitory lined with cots. Mason lies awake, listening to Ellie whisper beside him. "They took Max," she says. "They said he's being trained." Mason doesn't answer. He hugs his knees to his chest and stares at the ceiling, tracing the cracks that look like roots. In the dark, the house creaks and groans, settling deeper into itself. He remembers the hunger, the way his stomach shrank, how his mouth always tasted of metal, the way they all became so careful, so quiet, how even their dreams seemed muffled, pressed down by the weight of what was expected. His body tenses, sweat prickling his brow. He blinks, and the memory shifts now. He is in a different room, walls papered with faded butterflies. There is a table in the center, covered in files, each marked with a child's name and a symbol. He sees his own name, the letters sharp and black, next to a drawing of an open eye. He leans in, and suddenly the words on the page are clear. Guardian candidates: Mason Carter, status awaiting activation. Ellie Ward, status active. Lila S., status failed Max R. Status transferred Sam P. Status lost. Next to each name, a symbol, a tree root, an eye, a locked door, a key with a broken tooth. Under his own name, a note scrawled in red ink, trigger song, Bime Sites, command him, activation pending. His heart hammers in his chest. He sees the rest of the page thick with codes and instructions. If activated, subject will protect house at all costs. Fail-safe isolation, memory wipe reintegration. Mason's vision swims. He presses his fingers to his temples, breath coming faster. The walls seem to pulse around him, the roots in the drawings writhing, reaching out. He feels the pressure behind his eyes, as if the memories themselves are trying to break through and take him. He stumbles backward, colliding with a toppled shelf. Something clatters to the ground, a stack of files, pages scattering like frightened birds. He drops to his knees, grabbing at the papers, scanning each one in the weak flashlight beam. It's all there. Names, dates, lists of punishments and rewards, triggers, special lessons. The margins are filled with coded language abbreviations, initials, fragments of songs. One phrase repeats over and over, stamped in red. The root remembers. The guardian obeys. He finds another list, this one older. Many names are crossed out. Rehomed, integrated, expired. His fingers tremble as he reaches the bottom. There is his own name, not crossed out, not marked with any fate, just the same chilling note. Activation pending, activation pending. He has frozen hands shaking. All at once, the nightmares make sense. The music box, the voice in his head. The sense that something inside him is always waiting for orders, some part of him that was never his. His whole life he's hunted lost children, thinking it was redemption. But now he knows he was trained to obey, trained to forget, trained to be called back. He chokes back a cry, forcing himself to his feet. Around him, the basement seems to hum, as if the house is alive, watching, listening. The blood on the walls, the toys, the eyes, they're all reminders, all warnings. In the flicker of his flashlight, a flash of movement, his own reflection in a shattered mirror. He sees himself as a child, face streaked with dirt, wide-eyed and terrified. The mirror image mouths a single word. Remember. Mason drops the files, heart racing. He knows now that the real fight isn't with the ghosts or the darkness, but with himself, with whatever was left in him, all those years ago, whatever the guardians were supposed to become. He grips the music box, the cold metal biting into his palm, and swears. He will not obey. He will not forget. He will find the others, and together they will break the cycle. But as he climbs the stairs, a chill runs through him, deep and old. Somewhere in the house, a melody plays, a song meant to wake what was buried. A song that echoes inside him still. He nearly drives past the bar 3 times before he finally pulls over. Heart-pounding palms, slick on the wheel. It's the kind of place that never had a name, only a battered neon sign that reads beer in flickering red. And the ghosts of half a century pressed into its dark wood. Rain spatters the windshield. For a moment, Mason just sits there, listening to the engine tick, rehearsing the questions. He needs to ask the questions no one else has ever dared. Then he kills the lights, grabs the folder of notes, and steps into the night. Inside, it smells of spilled whiskey, ancient cigarettes, and desperation. The bartender, a block of a man with thinning hair, doesn't look up when Mason pushes in, just polishes the same cloudy glass and eyes the clock. It's Tuesday, barely 5 patrons scattered along the counter. But Mason only sees one slumped at the far end, tangled in his own jacket, head bowed over a double shot of something brown and cheap. Jules, 25 years have not been kind to him. There's a faded tattoo snaking down his neck. A crude butterfly with broken wings, the kind a teenager gives himself with a needle and a lighter. His hair is too long gray at the temples, eyes bloodshot darting around the room. He's lost weight, maybe half his teeth. But when he lifts his head and meets Mason's eyes, there's a flash of something that hasn't dimmed at all: fear, recognition. Mason slides onto the bar stool beside him, not too close. He orders a black coffee, but his hands are shaking. Jules snorts, shakes out another cigarette, and lights it with a hand that trembles just enough to betray him. For a long minute, they don't speak. The jukebox warbles something sad and country in the background. Finally, Mason breaks the silence. "It's me, Jules." "Mason." Jules laughs, a dry, brittle sound. "Didn't think I'd ever see you again, man. You look taller." "You look like shit," Mason says, soft but not unkind. Jules shrugs. "That's fair." Mason pulls out the music box, sets it on the bar between them. "You remember this?" Jules's hand freezes halfway to his glass. His eyes go wide, then narrow. He leans closer, voice dropping to a rasp. "Where did you get that?" "It found me. Just like the past always does." Jules laughs again, this time quieter, almost a whimper. He drains his glass and signals for another. "You shouldn't have come. You really shouldn't be here, Carter." "I had to. You know why." Mason lowers his voice. "It's not just about us anymore, Jules. It's about all of them, the ones who never made it out, the ones who don't even know what was done to them." Jules covers his face with both hands, his breathing ragged. When he finally looks up, his eyes are shining with tears, but there's something else, a flash of anger. "What do you want from me, huh? I did my time. I keep my head down. I keep my mouth shut. I still see her sometimes. You know, the woman from the window. She comes to me in dreams. Her and the goddamn music box. I wake up screaming every time." Mason sets the tape recorder gently on the bar next to the music box. "You're the only one left who might remember the truth." Jules stares at it, and for a moment his shoulders slump in defeat. Then, almost against his will, he begins to talk, words tumbling out in a rush. They called it training, but it was more than that. It was a forge. They took kids, orphans, runaways, wards of the province. They broke us down, piece by piece. The strongest, the ones who survived, became guardians. The rest, he shakes his head, voice breaking. "You know." Mason nods, remembering too well. Jules continues. "We were never supposed to remember. They made us forget. Hypnosis, drugs, whatever they had. But sometimes things come back. Flashes, smells, the sound of the lock turning at night, the way they'd line us up and recite the code." He takes a shaky breath. "Eden root. That's what they called it. The roots were everywhere. On the walls, on our uniforms, even in the songs. We belonged to them." Mason feels bile rising in his throat. "Who was running it? Do you remember names?" Jules winces, shakes his head. Faces, but never names. There was the doctor, always in the shadows. The matron, she did most of the talking. The rest, guards, scientists, men in suits who came and went. No one from the outside ever noticed. The cops didn't care. Maybe they were in on it. Maybe they were scared. Mason leans in, his voice trembling. "Why us? What did they want?" Jules closes his eyes. "They wanted loyalty, obedience, guardians to keep the secret, to protect the house, to protect the root. They said we were chosen, harvested for purpose. Some got sent away, I think. The good ones, the quiet ones. The rest, experiments, punishments. Some nights they took the little ones down to the lab, and they never came back." The room feels colder now. Mason glances around. No one seems to notice them, but he can't shake the feeling of being watched. "Is it still happening?" Jules's head snaps up. "You don't get it. Eden root never dies. You can burn down a house, you can close a file, but the root's already in the ground. You dig too deep, they notice. They come for you. That's why I drink Carter. To forget. To make it stop. But it never does. Mason slides the Guardian list across the bar. My name's still on it. Activation pending. What does that mean? Jules flinches as if struck. He covers the page with his hand, eyes darting toward the bartender. His voice is barely a whisper. It means you're still one of them. It means if they want you, you'll come. They can trigger you with a word, a song, a sound. You ever black out, do things you can't remember? Mason feels ice in his veins, sometimes. That's them. That's the root working. It's why you can't let this go. Why none of us can. You start digging, you won't stop. You can't stop. Not until you're back in the dark. A tremor runs through Mason's hands. Why didn't you tell anyone? Jules laughs ragged and bitter. Who would believe me? You see what I am. They made sure of that. Ruined, broken, untrustworthy. We're walking warnings to anyone who gets too close. Besides, he glances up, eyes wild. They see everything, even now. A moment passes in tense silence. Then Jules fumbles with his phone, hands shaking, and shoves it toward Mason. Read this. On the screen, a new message. Blocked number, turn back or become the next to disappear. Mason's chest tightens. When did you get this? Jules shrugs, lighting another cigarette. This morning. Got one every day since you started poking around again. Sometimes it's just a photo, me at work, me leaving this bar, me asleep in my car. Sometimes it's the song. He flicks ash onto the floor. They know. They always know. Mason looks up, and in the mirror behind the bar, he sees the two of them, ghosts of boys who never got to grow up, haunted by the same unfinished lullaby. He understands now the danger isn't in the past, but in the present. Eden Root is alive, watching, and very much awake. Jules grabs Mason's wrist nails, digging in. Promise me if you go further, you don't do it alone. They'll break you if you let them. They'll use you against everyone you love, against yourself. Don't let them win, Carter. Don't become what they made us to be. The bartender glances over, suspicious now. Mason stands, tucking the tape music box and list back into his bag. I won't stop, Jules. I can't. Jules only shakes his head, turning back to his drink. Then God help you. Mason steps into the rain, breathes deep, and checks his phone. A single new message lights up the screen. Unknown number. Go back, or you'll be next. He looks up at the city's jagged skyline, at the shadows moving in alleyways, and knows with bone-deep certainty that this story is far from over. That night, the music box plays on his nightstand, the tune slow and deliberate, and Mason dreams of roots twisting through the floor, reaching for him, with hands made of darkness and memory. Mason's apartment is littered with paper names, timelines. Maps of North America, spattered with red ink and pushpins, every surface a desperate geography of loss. There's a storm outside, rain lashing at the windows, but he doesn't hear it. He's in the center of a cyclone of his own, making, surrounded by the faces of vanished children. Every new file opens another wound. He's been at it for days. Nights blend into mornings. Coffee turns to whiskey. He combs through the archives, provincial missing children bulletins, faded group photos, admissions ledgers from orphanages and psych wards now condemned. He fills notebooks with their names. Ellie, Max, Lila, Sam. Others dozens, maybe hundreds. Kids who were once at foster house, kids who were transferred, reunited with families that never existed or simply disappeared. There's no closure, no ending. Just a gap where a life used to be. He builds a master list, cross-checks with every publicly available database. But some files are gone, sealed, misplaced, redacted so fully that all that's left are ghosts in the margins. The deeper he digs, the more he realizes that foster house wasn't an anomaly. It was a node in something vast, something organized, patient, and careful. He draws lines between the points. Suburban respite centers in Illinois and Quebec, rural children's hospitals in Ontario, church-run healing homes in California and Alberta. Everywhere the same pattern, kids in, nothing out. He begins to recognize a code, a kind of silent choreography in the files. A certain doctor's name reappears, then vanishes after 1998. Several buildings share an architect, a foundation, a pattern of fire or sudden closure. He pulls up satellite images, 4 facilities all abandoned, but in the overhead view, each yard is scored with a strange-shaped tree roots twisting and intersecting burnt into the grass or stone. Every time he thinks he's found an answer, he hits a wall. A director who died mysteriously, a secretary who won't talk records erased or altered by hands more powerful than his own. He's not just up against time, he's up against money, secrecy, and something far darker. Sometimes as dawn stains the sky, he thinks he sees eyes in the glass watching. He tries to reach out to the police, to child welfare agencies. His calls are met with scripted sympathy, dead numbers, or careful no comment. More than once, the line goes dead just as he begins to mention Eden Route. Sometimes hours later, a strange car idles outside his building for too long. His phone buzzes with blocked numbers. Enough. Let the route sleep, but Mason can't stop. He draws strength from every name, every unfinished life. He pins a photo of Ellie to the map. Next to it, Max's school ID, Lila's last drawing a butterfly with a broken wing, a memorial to the lost. He loses time. His dreams are racked by fire, by music that never ends. He wakes to find himself sitting at his desk, hands bleeding from clutching a pen too tightly, the music box playing again and again on his nightstand. One night, the fatigue overwhelms him. He pours a drink, sits in the dark, and winds the music box, hoping the familiar lullaby will grant a moment's rest. But as the notes tumble out, he hears something new. A glitch in the melody, a stutter that repeats every third bar. At first he thinks it's just the old gears sticking. But as he listens, heart pounding, the stutter becomes a rhythm. He fumbles for his phone, hits record, and replays the song, this time counting the pauses and pitches. Long, short, short. Pause. Short, long, short. The pattern isn't random. He writes it out, dots and dashes. Morse code. His hands shake as he deciphers it letter by letter. E, V, E, L, Y, N. The name hits him like a blow. He scrambles through the files. Evelyn, one of the oldest residents, vanished 2 years before the fire whispered about by the others. The protector. The one who stood between the kids and the worst of the staff. In the notebook from the basement, Ellie had written, Evelyn said not to cry. Evelyn said we'd get out. He plays the melody again, listening closer. There's another message buried deeper in the notes, barely audible beneath the mechanical whir. He slows the playback, runs it through a sound editor. The second code emerges. It's Vietnamese, help me. The realization is a spike of adrenaline. The message isn't just a name. It's a call for rescue. All this time, the music box was a beacon, broadcasting a plea in the only language no adult would ever think to check. Mason slumps back in his chair, staring at the ceiling, the gravity of the discovery sinking in. Someone Evelyn must have encoded it, hoping that one day a survivor would listen close enough, care enough to hear what was hidden. He plays the box again, recording every iteration, each one a heartbeat, a plea. He returns to his map. He overlays every facility he's found with records of children named Evelyn. There are 3 matches, but one stands out: an abandoned mental hospital in northern British Columbia, shut down in 1997. The last patient record is for a girl age 14, listed only as Evelyn M., transferred from foster house 6 months before the fire. The file ends there, no discharge, no next of kin, just a signature from a doctor whose name appears in the Eden Route archives. He gathers his notes, photographs the battered music box, and the Guardian list. Every thread in his investigation points to this place, a dead end on the map. A place where secrets go to rot in the dark. His phone vibrates on the table. Another blocked number, another threat. Stop digging. Last warning. He ignores it, redialing the mental hospital's old number on a whim. The line rings once, twice, then clicks over to static. He almost hangs up until through the hiss he hears a child's voice, far away and hollow. Please help us. We're still here. He drops the phone, staring at it as if it might bite. Outside, the storm has passed, but the world feels more dangerous than ever. Mason steps to the window, peers into the street and sees nothing but shadows. He knows he's running out of time. Eden Route is closing in. But he also knows the truth. Evelyn survived long enough to leave a trail, and somewhere the route is still growing, still waiting to be cut out. Mason packs a bag, locking away the map, the files, the box. He loads his car, feeling watched, every hair on his neck bristling. Before he leaves, he pins one more note to the wall above his desk, a promise scrawled in red. Find Evelyn. End this. The music box plays as he locks the door. The melody trailing him down the hall, into the night, and toward whatever waits for him on the edge of the world, where the roots are thickest and the truth is still buried, clawing to be free. Mason's hands tremble as he grips the steering wheel, white-knuckled eyes darting to the rearview mirror every few seconds. The northern highway carves through endless pine moonlight, sketching jagged shadows across the blacktop. He hasn't slept in days, running on adrenaline and dread, following the last trail to the abandoned hospital. His phone vibrates again, another unknown number. No message this time, just static that creeps beneath his skin. He ignores it. He's almost there. A sudden jolt, headlights flare in the mirror, too close, blinding. A battered SUV veers up behind him, slams on its horn, and rams his bumper. Mason's heart jumps. Another car blocks the road ahead, its brights piercing the fog. Trapped. He slams the brakes, swerves onto the shoulder tires, spitting gravel. The music box falls from the passenger seat, its haunting tune stuttering in the chaos. The night outside is cold absolute. He scrambles from the car, boots slipping on wet pine needles, lungs burning with panic. Two men spill from the vehicles, black coats, gloved hands, faces shadowed by hoods. Their movements are practiced, professional, predatory. One brandishes a crowbar, the other a gleaming knife. Mason bolts into the trees, mind screaming. He stumbles through thickets, branches slashing his arms, but the men are faster, relentless. You shouldn't have come. Carter 1 snarls, his voice sharp as broken glass. Mason ducks behind a fallen log, gasping. He feels the weight of every secret he's uncovered, the eyes of Eden Route closing in. They find him, boots crunching closer, blades glinting. Mason braces for the blow when suddenly a new sound slices through the dark, a high, shrill whistle echoing off the trunks. The men freeze. For an instant, something almost like fear flickers in their eyes. Then a figure steps from the shadows. A woman, tall, wiry, her face half hidden by a battered coat hair, wild eyes pale as Arctic sky. She moves with the silent certainty of a ghost. Her left hand is gloved, her right clutching a length of pipe. She doesn't hesitate. With impossible speed, she swings the pipe into the first man's arm bone, cracks, the crowbar drops. The second man lunges, knife out, but she's already moving, disarming him with a twist knee driving up into his chin. Both men go down hard, breath snatched away. She kneels, delivers a message in a voice so low it vibrates through the earth. Tell them Evelyn remembers. The attackers scramble up and flee, stumbling for their lives into the trees. The forest swallows their retreat, leaving only Mason. Shivering, clutching the bark at his back, heart pounding like a hunted animal. She turns and their eyes meet. Her face is older, marked with scars and sorrow, but unmistakable. Mason's voice cracks. You. It's you. The woman in the window, the photograph. Evelyn nods, a ghost of a smile flickering. It's me. You've come a long way, Mason. He tries to stand, knees weak, every muscle shaking with adrenaline and relief and confusion. How did you find me? She glances at the music box, which lies half open at his feet, still playing its broken melody. You called for help, didn't you? I never stopped listening. She helps him up, her grip, strong, steady. Up close, Mason sees the exhaustion behind her eyes, the bone-deep vigilance of someone who's lived too long in the dark. She leads him deeper into the woods, away from the road. They settle in a small clearing, moonlight breaking through the branches in cold silver shards. Mason sinks to his knees, chest heaving. Evelyn crouches across from him, her hands busy with a battered canteen and a battered first aid kit. He stares at her, hardly daring to believe she's real. I thought you were dead. I thought they'd taken you. She shakes her head, wincing as she peels away her glove to reveal a mangled hand, fingers bent and fused by old burns. Not dead. Not yet. They tried. They almost succeeded. But I'm still here, for now. Mason leans forward, voice trembling. What are you? Who are you? Evelyn's eyes flicker, searching his face for judgment, for fear. She finds neither, only a desperate hunger for truth. So she tells him, I was born into foster house just like you. But I was different. They said I was special, adaptable, loyal, easy to train. I was one of the first to survive the process. They called me Guardian 1. The matron took me everywhere. The basement, the training rooms, the isolation cells. I learned to obey, to forget pain, to forget fear, to forget myself. They erased my name, my memories, my wants. Only duty remained. She swallows, her voice shaking. But even machines break. Even guardians remember. The day you arrived, I saw something different. You were small, but you wouldn't stop asking questions. You fought back. You made the others brave. I started to remember things I'd lost: lullabies, the feel of sun on my face, the name my mother gave me. She looks away, a shadow of grief on her lips. They tried to make me forget again. Therapy, drugs, isolation, shock. They'd wake us at night, run us through the drills, protect the house, obey the code, forget the past. Most broke. Some vanished. I survived because I learned to hide inside myself and inside their system. She pulls something from her pocket, a faded ribbon, blue with scorched edges. This was my sister's. She didn't make it out. None of them did. That night, the fire, I broke every rule. I started it. I had to. It was the only way to free you all. Mason stares at her, tears stinging his eyes. He remembers that night, the flames, the screaming, the strong arms lifting him through the window, a voice whispering, "Run. Don't look back." All these years, he thought it was a dream. Evelyn leans forward, her eyes fierce. I carried you out. I thought I could save the others too. But Eden Root was faster. They caught me, dragged me back. They rewrote me again, tried to erase everything. But a piece stayed. The part that remembers love, not just loyalty. Mason's throat is thick with grief and gratitude. Why did you help me? She hesitates. Because you reminded me what it was like to care. And because I promised my sister no one else would disappear if I could stop it. She looks over her shoulder, the forest suddenly hostile again. Eden Root never stopped hunting me. They need guardians. They need secrets. But I've spent the last 25 years breaking their code, mapping their safe houses, helping survivors disappear. I'm not the only one, but I'm the last of the first. My time is almost up. She presses the ribbon into his palm. You have to finish this, Mason. They'll come for you now. But you can do what I never could tell the world. He shakes his head, tears falling. I don't know how. She offers the faintest smile. You already do. You just have to remember who you are. You were never one of them. You were always the one who could break the chain. A rustle in the trees, a warning. She stands, helps him up. We have to move. They'll be back, and next time there won't be a warning shot. They melt into the woods, moving through darkness like shadows of themselves. Evelyn's voice is low, urgent. Whatever happens, don't trust the voices. Don't trust your memories. Trust the feeling you had when you were small, the need to protect, not obey. Mason nods, every nerve alight with purpose, with terror, with hope. They disappear into the night, hunted and haunted, but for the first time in decades, not alone. The wind outside the half-collapsed hospital howls through corridors, abandoned for decades, turning every broken window into a throat that sings of pain and memory. Mason and Evelyn move silently, their flashlights cutting paths through the dust, their every footfall echoing against linoleum, gone yellow with time and secrets. Down one corridor, past locked doors and rooms wallpapered in peeling cartoons. Evelyn halts beside a rusted service elevator. Down here, she whispers. Her fingers tremble as she pries loose a metal plate from the wall, revealing a hidden keypad. She enters a sequence, a lullaby in numbers. The elevator groans, doors stutter open. As they descend, Mason's pulse thunders. He stares at his reflection in the warped metal, a face haunted by questions only now beginning to surface. Underground, the air is cold and thick with the scent of bleach and rot. The door opens onto a corridor lined with security glass. Through each panel, Mason glimpses rooms that should not exist. Beds bolted to floors, chairs with restraints, cameras fixed in every corner. Overhead, the lights buzz, casting everyone's shadow longer and darker than reality can bear. "Why can't I remember any of this?" Mason asks, voice almost a child's. Evelyn's face hardens, her voice low. "They locked your memories. It's what they did to all of us. Sometimes it takes a trigger, smell, sound, fear, or the right question at the wrong time." They stop before a door marked Guardian Development. Evelyn slides a keycard she's kept hidden for years. Inside the room is frozen in time two-way mirrors, rows of cribs walls papered in symbols, eyes, roots, broken circles. The mirrors reflect their faces, and somewhere deeper the shapes of children Mason almost recognizes. She helps him sit, breathing steady. "You have to let yourself go back. You have to see it to break it." He closes his eyes and the world drops away. It begins with the taste of blood, metallic sharp, and the coppery sting of tears. He's a child no more than 6. A line of children shuffles before a table where the matron waits, her lips drawn thin. They're instructed to recite phrases. The ones who falter are dragged from the line, their screams echoing into silence. A doctor, white coat, blank face, places electrodes against Mason's scalp. The room is cold, humming with machines. A voice, low and mechanical, says, "Guardian Protocol, isolate, induce, observe." Mason's vision flickers. They force him to watch films of children being rescued, then punished. Each time he weeps, the current rises, the pain with it, until he learns to hold the tears inside. In another memory, he sits in a circle of children all holding hands. They chant nonsense syllables, call and response lullabies warped into commands. If anyone lets go, the lights go out and sirens blare. They're told obey or disappear, forget or disappear. He remembers the fear a boy named Theo tries to run. The orderlies catch him. They take him to the quiet room. Theo never comes back. The others never speak his name again. He remembers, too, the testing, a row of doors, each marked with symbols. Behind each, a different ordeal. Darkness, hunger, loneliness. For hours, sometimes days, the children are left inside their only company, the sound of their own sobbing. Once Mason is left in total darkness, with a tape recorder playing only the word "remember" over and over until the word loses meaning. He remembers watching others, smaller, weaker, being led away. He wonders where they go. No one says. Evelyn's hand closes over his, her voice anchoring him to the present. "You survived. You fought." Tears stream down Mason's cheeks. What happened to the others? Evelyn's face is hollow. Some became guardians. Most did not. The ones who couldn't adapt, they were marked as defective. He can't breathe. Where did they go? She is silent for a long time. Some were sent to other facilities. Others were sold. Some were harvested. Her voice breaks. Eden Root didn't waste resources. Kids who failed the trials were valuable in other ways. Mason shakes, rage building under his skin. "You mean organs?" Evelyn nods, barely audible. There were buyers, hospitals, rich families, private clinics. The matron kept records coded, hidden. Only the best, the most obedient, became guardians. The rest vanished into a black market no one dared investigate. You always wondered why so few ever graduated. Why so many faces faded from group photos. They were erased, sold, or worse. That's how Eden Root grew: secrecy, profit, obedience, enforced by terror. He rocks back, mind recoiling. And the data, the files they kept. Everything. She moves to the far wall, pries up a floorboard, and produces a battered notebook. Ellie's journal. It's stuffed with pages of numbers, initials, dates, organ codes, payouts, destination cities. Mason flips through the entries, each one a ledger of pain. Subject 18. Non-compliant liver lungs. Sold to Montreal. Subject 22, cardiac failure, unfit. Disposed. Subject 27 compliant transferred to NY as guardian trainee. He finds his own name, Subject 31, adaptive awaiting final protocol. Bile rises in his throat. They were selling us even while pretending to save us. Evelyn's voice is hollow steel. That's what Eden Root is. Not just a cult, but a marketplace. Children as raw material. Guardians as weapons. Secrets as currency. He remembers the old tapes, the faces of the matron and the doctor, the orderlies, with their endless pills and sharp, cold hands. He remembers the children wide-eyed reciting, "We are roots, we are branches, we are not afraid." He remembers Evelyn, older, stronger, always watching. One night she led him and 3 others to the kitchen, slipped them bread, whispered, "You matter. Don't let them take that away." He sobs, chest heaving, the memories a storm. She kneels beside him. "That's why I burned the house. That's why I stayed. I couldn't save everyone, but I saved you. I carried you out, made them think you died. I let them erase me so you could live." He looks at her with all the grief and love and horror of a lost child finally returned. "How do we end this?" Evelyn hands him the notebook, eyes fierce. "With truth, with light. You're a reporter. You have the voice I never had." He stares at the pages, the names, the prices, the destinies of all those lost. He hears the echo of Eden Root, not as a whisper, but as a curse. "They'll come for us." Evelyn nods. "They already are. But now you remember. And they can't erase the truth anymore." Above them, somewhere far off, a siren wails. Someone has tripped the alarm. The last secrets of Eden Root are loose in the world. Mason stands, notebook in hand, fury and hope twining together inside him. They run side by side toward the only exit left. The dark is full of ghosts. But now, Mason can see them, name them, and at last, fight for them. Rain slams the windshield in sheets, drumming a war song on the roof of the stolen car. As Mason and Evelyn speed through back roads carved into the mountains outside Vancouver. The tires chew gravel and mud headlights, cutting tunnels through the dark. Beside Mason, Evelyn's face is carved in tension blood, drying on the knuckles that grip her pistol. Her breath shallow and measured. In the back seat, medical bags rope a battered laptop, the notebook, everything they need for one last war. The Eden Root compound is nothing like Foster House, a modern fortress disguised as a therapeutic boarding school. Clean white stone steel gates, guards in medical whites, cameras watching every angle. Mason parks a mile away, the car hidden by trees, and they make the rest of the trek on foot. Every step toward the compound is a return to the nightmare, a step further from safety. They crouch by the perimeter fence, hearts thundering. Evelyn signals, "Wait, watch, timing is everything." She knows the patrol routes, the shifts, the blind spots they've spent weeks watching, preparing. But nothing feels enough. Beyond the glass walls, he sees them, children in blue pajamas, sitting in lines, faces drained of hope. He thinks of himself as a boy, his hands trembling, his mind caged. Tonight, he promises, will be different. They slip through a drainage tunnel, emerge in the underbelly of the compound. A concrete warren of maintenance corridors, humming with fluorescent lights and the reek of antiseptic. Evelyn disables a camera with practiced hands. Mason follows, every muscle wound, tight senses raw. They climb a service ladder, emerge into the main hallway. From above the building is a labyrinth. They move with the memory of blueprints. Evelyn stole years before the holding wing, the surgical theater, the transfer suite. A voice barks over the PA guardians to preparation. "Protocol shift. Repeat protocol shift." The words chill Mason. Guardians, older teens and young adults, faces blank, bodies hard. They march in formation, arms behind backs, eyes empty of anything human. He sees a boy he recognizes, Curtis, a survivor of Foster House, now a shell marching for Eden Root. Evelyn pulls Mason aside as the guardians pass. They're programmed, conditioned to obey. If we're seen, they'll raise the alarm, or worse. They slip into the shadows, reach the observation gallery. Below, through thick glass, a group of children, maybe a dozen boys and girls from 6 to 12, wait on cots. An orderly face masked checks a clipboard. At the far end, a doctor in surgical scrubs supervises as IVs are inserted. Beside him, a man in a suit Mason recognizes from surveillance photos, the handler. Evelyn points. There, Olivia, Third cot from the left. She's the target. The others are scheduled for transfer tomorrow. Mason's heart wrenches. Olivia can't be more than 8 brown hair eyes swollen from crying. She clutches a threadbare rabbit to her chest. For a moment, Mason sees his own younger self in her. He grips Evelyn's shoulder. We do this now. Alarms suddenly shriek too soon. They've been seen. Floodlights strobe across the corridor. Doors lock. Mason and Evelyn run vaulting down a back stairwell, slipping past a guardian who moves to block their way. Evelyn hesitates, gun raised, but the guardian, an older girl, face gray with sorrow, shakes her head, mouth trembling. Go, she whispers, and lets them pass. On the main floor, chaos erupts. Orderlies shout, children scream, the handler barking orders. Secure the transfer subjects, guardians to breach Mason. Kicks in the glass of the observation room, his arms burning as shards slice his skin. He drops inside, rushes to Olivia's side. She shrinks away in terror. It's okay, Mason pleads. We're here to help. I know what this place is. We're getting you out. She stares, tears streaming, but nods. Evelyn covers the doorway, gun leveled. The handler and 2 guardians burst in. Mason recognizes one, Jules, gaunt and hollow-eyed, brainwashed to obedience. Evelyn tries to reach him. Jules, it's me, Evelyn. You saved me once. Please fight it. Jules hesitates, gun wavering. Mason sees the war behind his eyes, programming against memory. For a moment, Mason sees the friend he knew. Then the handler screams, "Stop them!" The other guardian attacks, tackling Mason. They roll across the floor, fists flying. Evelyn fires, dropping the handler with a shot to the leg. Jules turns his gun on her, shaking teeth, bared. I have to obey, he gasps. No, you don't, Evelyn pleads. You can choose. Jules sobs, gun trembling. At the last second, he turns and shoots the security panel instead. Alarms blare, louder doors open. Run, he shouts. Evelyn and Mason drag Olivia, Mason's arm, slick with blood. Down the hall, a knot of guardians block their escape. Evelyn, eyes wild, throws her weapon aside, steps forward, arms raised. I was Guardian 1. You know me. You don't have to do this. You can fight. They hesitate. For the first time, cracks ripple through their programming. One drops her baton. Another simply stares, tears streaming. The handler, crawling, tries to trigger the alarm, but Jules stomps his hand. No more, he whispers. Olivia's sobs cut through the chaos. Mason lifts her into his arms. We're almost free, kiddo. Hold on. They run, following Evelyn through a side exit into a rain-soaked loading dock. Yvonne sits idling, left by a staff member fleeing the chaos. Evelyn forces the door open, shoves Mason and Olivia inside. As she climbs in after them, a shot cracks through the night, one of the orderlies desperate, firing from the shadows. The bullet tears through Evelyn's side. She stumbles, blood spilling. Mason catches her, horrified. No. Stay with me. Evelyn's breath hitches, but she pushes them into the van, keys the ignition. Drive, she rasps. Get her out. Sirens wail as more guards pour from the building, but the guardians left behind don't give chase. Some simply watch as the van disappears down the mountain road, their faces slack as if a spell has broken. Inside the van, Olivia sobs in Mason's lap. Evelyn slumped, blood soaking through her coat. Mason drives blindly, headlights dancing through sheets of rain, every nerve screaming with fear and hope and the taste of freedom. As they vanish into the night, the first rays of dawn break through the clouds. Mason glances at the rearview mirror. The compound is burning. Behind them, Eden Root collapses in chaos. Beside him, Evelyn's breaths grow shallower. She grips his hand, voice thin but fierce. Promise me, Mason, end it. Tell the world. He nods, tears streaming as the van speeds into the light, carrying with it the last battered survivors of the dark. The sun is just beginning to bleed through the clouds as Mason steers the battered van along a winding forest road, every second counting down toward an uncertain salvation. In the passenger seat, Olivia trembles, her small fists still clutching the threadbare rabbit eyes, wide and haunted, but alive. Mason glances in the mirror. Behind them, Eden Root's stronghold is a blur swallowed by distance, but the night's violence still clings to their skin like ash. In the back, Evelyn sprawls on a pile of coats, her breathing ragged, one hand pressed to the gunshot wound, blooming crimson beneath her ribs. He pulls off the road van, lurching to a halt beside a mossy creek mist, rising in the pale morning. "Stay here," he whispers to Olivia, brushing her tangled hair. She nods, silent tears already glistening. He crawls into the back, heart pounding, hands shaking as he tries to stem the blood, but it's too much, the wound too deep. Evelyn's eyes flutter open, gray shining with pain and the kind of strength that doesn't fade. She tries to sit but winces, Mason supporting her gently. She offers a weak smile. "I told you I'd get you out," she rasps, voice splintered by agony and love. Mason shakes his head, desperation warring with the useless hope of survival. "No, you're not dying. I'm going to get help." She grabs his wrist with surprising strength, forcing him to meet her gaze. "There's no time, Mason. Listen to me. You have to finish it. Everything we did tonight, every risk, every secret, it was to give you one chance. You and her." She nods at Olivia, who sits frozen, knees drawn to her chest, not understanding, but knowing this is goodbye. Mason's tears start unbidden. "I can't do it without you." She coughs, blood flecking her lips. "You can. You're not a guardian. You were never theirs to program. That's why you survived. That's why you're the only one who can end this." She fumbles in her coat, withdrawing a blood-stained slip of paper and a small plastic drive. Mason takes them, hands trembling. "What is this?" Everything Evelyn breathes. The last archive. The original protocols, the names, the financials, all the codes they used to erase us. The access string is written here. You have to get it to someone who will listen. Don't trust the police. Don't trust anyone in the system. Go to the press. Go to the world. Make them see. She leans back, gaze turning to Olivia, a soft smile breaking through the pain. "Promise me you'll keep her safe." Olivia is the first one who wasn't broken, the first child they tried to process, who didn't accept the code. She is hope, Mason. She is the proof. Protect her. Mason's shoulders shake as he nods, grief and rage choking his words. "I promise. I'll protect her. I'll end Edenroot, I swear." Evelyn's fingers tighten, then release. She closes her eyes for a moment, her breathing slowing. The forest around them is impossibly quiet. Birds warble in the branches, the creek bubbles, the whole world suspended in this final sacred moment. Mason clings to her hand, willing her to stay. Her voice is faint now, almost lost in the wind. "You remind me of my sister. She believed the world could change. So do I. Make them remember us, Mason. Not just as victims, but as fighters, as family." He bows his head, tears splashing onto her palm. "I will. I promise. No more children will disappear. Not while I'm alive." A smile flickers at the edge of Evelyn's lips. Her eyes, glazed with pain, lock on his for the last time. "That's all I ever wanted." With a long, slow breath, Evelyn slips away, her hand limp in his, her face at peace. For a moment, Mason just sits there, lost, hollowed out by the weight of all that's been lost and all that he must carry forward. Then he gathers her close, pressing his forehead to hers, letting the grief break over him in silent waves. Finally, he lets her go. He zips her coat up to her chin, folds her hands, and places the slip of paper and drive in his own pocket. He wipes his eyes, steadying himself for Olivia's sake. He finds her curled in the front seat, still hugging the rabbit. She looks at him wordless. "She's gone," Mason whispers. "But she wanted us to be safe. And she wanted the world to know the truth." Olivia sniffles, small but resilient. "Are we going to be okay?" Mason nods, though his voice is raw. "Yes. We're going to make sure no one ever hurts kids again. Not like this." He buries Evelyn under the oldest pine tree by the creek, gathering stones for a rough headstone. On it, he scratches a single word, guardian. Then beside it, in smaller letters, hope. Before they leave, he presses Olivia's hand against the stone. "We're alive because of her. Never forget that." They return to the van, the slip of paper and drive between them, a lifeline and a curse. As Mason starts the engine, Olivia climbs onto the passenger seat beside him, no longer trembling, her eyes alight with a cautious, battered faith. The road ahead is long and uncertain, but Mason is changed. He carries Evelyn's sacrifice in his bones, Olivia's hope in his arms, and the promise of justice burning behind his eyes. No more secrets, no more darkness. As they drive away, sunlight finally pierces the clouds, flooding the forest in gold. The future is unwritten, but for the first time, Mason believes they might just survive it. The morning after Evelyn's burial, Mason sits in a dim rented motel room just outside Vancouver, the battered laptop humming beside him. Olivia is asleep on the other bed, clutching her rabbit face, finally relaxed. The coated slip and plastic drive tremble in Mason's hands, heavy with the gravity of justice, with the hope Evelyn gave her life for. His reflection in the laptop's black screen is gaunt, wild-eyed, but steady. Today, he will become the voice for all the children who never had one. He plugs in the drive. The folders spill open lists of guardians, doctors, financiers, donors, hundreds of names, every penny traced, every vanished child. Photos, x-rays, test results, shipping manifests. Videos, cold interviews, training footage, even a hidden recording from the night Mason and Evelyn rescued Olivia. He scans through, shaking disgust and horror melting into resolve. He uploads it all to the cloud, encrypts backups, then drafts a statement. My name is Mason Carter. For 25 years, I tried to forget what happened at Foster House. But forgetting allowed evil to fester. I am one of the survivors. And this is the truth. He sends the story and the data to every major newspaper, TV station, journalist, and whistleblower site he can find. He sends copies to the RCMP, Interpol, the FBI, and child advocacy organizations. In a final shaking breath, he shares it with the world on every social media channel with hashtag EdenRoot and hashtag #RememberTheForgotten. The explosion is immediate, global. The footage of pale, haunted children in blue pajamas flashes across every phone and news screen. The whistleblower documents are everywhere. No one can deny them. Hashtags trend by noon. Politicians, police, and activists rush to comment. Anonymous survivors from as far as Toronto, Chicago, Mexico City, and Paris send messages to Mason. That was my home. I remember the darkness. I never thought anyone would believe me. Within 24 hours, governments freeze EdenRoot's bank accounts. Raids hit therapeutic schools and secret clinics across 3 countries. The matron and the handler's faces are on wanted lists. The old doctors flee or are arrested at airports. Phone lines at missing persons bureaus light up. Hundreds of families who once buried hope call to ask if their child might be one of the transferred survivors. The media calls it the Guardian scandal. Documentaries and exposés air in prime time. Mason is interviewed in a studio, Olivia sitting quietly beside him, a protective arm around her. He doesn't talk about Evelyn or the night in the woods. Those wounds are private. But he speaks for the lost. No child is born to be broken. No secret is worth more than a life. He watches as on the news, a mother and son embrace after 19 years apart, weeping voices lost to microphones. An old friend from Foster House, presumed dead, is found in a hospital in Seattle, catatonic but alive. A girl named Zoe, rescued from another EdenRoot site, finds her father's arms for the first time since she was 4. Across the world, others begin to heal. Meanwhile, Mason helps Olivia navigate her new world. With his testimony and with the evidence he and Evelyn saved, Olivia is granted emergency foster status. She chooses her new family herself, a teacher who volunteered at the Survivor Support Center, whose eyes are kind and whose home is warm. Mason brings Olivia to her new house, a cozy apartment with paintings on the walls and sunlight in the windows. On the last night before the adoption is finalized, Olivia hugs Mason fiercely, whispering, "You're my hero." He chokes on the tears, promising, "You're safe now. And you're never alone." He doesn't leave, not really. He visits every week, brings books and games, teaches Olivia to ride a bike in the park, learns to bake muffins with her. In every way that matters, he's her protector, her chosen uncle, her friend. The past left scars, but their future is shared. But Mason cannot rest. He joins a survivor network working with investigators and journalists. He helps launch a foundation named for Evelyn, the Guardian Circle, to support and shelter kids escaping trafficking abuse and lost childhoods. He visits foster homes, testifies at hearings, and mentors teens too frightened to trust anyone else. Each day he answers messages from survivors and parents searching for hope. For the first time in his life, Mason lets himself grieve at therapy in long walks through rain-soaked woods at the little grave under the pine. He is not healed, but he is healing, and he learns the difference. He keeps Evelyn's slip of paper in his wallet, the words now etched in his bones. Protect the living, honor the lost, break the chain. He is reunited with Jules, who survived the raid and is in treatment. Their first conversation is halting, painful but true. "You saved me," Mason Jules whispers, eyes wet. "No, we saved each other," Mason replies. "That's what families do." He writes letters to the families of those who never came home, describing their courage, their laughter, their favorite songs. At each new grave he leaves a stone painted with a butterfly, Evelyn's symbol of transformation. Olivia's healing is slow but real. In her new home she sings softly at night. She colors the walls with butterflies, names each one for a friend still missing. Mason gives her a notebook just like Evelyn's and encourages her to fill it with stories of hope. At the first annual gathering of the Guardian Circle, Mason stands before a crowd of survivors, parents, advocates. His voice is strong, carrying through the quiet auditorium. "We are not our scars. We are the light that escapes the dark, and we will not let the next child disappear." He looks at Olivia, her eyes bright, her hand in her mother's. They smile. For the first time, the circle is unbroken. Outside, spring sunlight glitters. Mason breathes deep. The story is not over, but it is no longer only about loss. It is about family found and chosen, rescued and redeemed. The world, battered and imperfect, is better than it was yesterday. And Mason Carter, once a lost boy, now walks forward as a true guardian for all who follow. Mason awoke before dawn, as he often did now, when the nightmares let him sleep at all. The world outside his apartment window was cloaked in that soft blue mist. Vancouver wears just before sunrise, the city's lights distant and dreamy. On the desk by his bed, the battered black notebook sat open beside the faded photograph of Evelyn, her gaze fierce, her smile an unfinished story. Olivia's latest letter, written in a careful looping scrawl, was tucked underneath. "I'm okay. Mom says I'm brave like you and Evelyn. I miss you. I drew another butterfly for my room. Come see soon." He lingered over the page, running his fingers along the edge, as if the touch could keep the future at bay. The phone buzzed. Another anonymous message. They had started again, cryptic, menacing, this one even bolder. "Don't think the light has won. Darkness always finds a way back." He erased it, but the chill lingered in his bones. News had broken weeks ago that authorities had raided another Eden Route site in Montana. A handful of mid-level operatives arrested more children freed. But always somebody slipped away. The true architects remained hidden, money moving like a snake through shell corporations and foreign accounts. Headlines called it the end of Eden Route, but Mason knew better. You could burn a garden, but roots waited in the dark. He spent that last week working with Guardian Circle, traveling from city to city. He visited survivors in halfway homes, stood silent at vigils for children who'd never returned, met with investigators in sterile rooms, heavy with secrets. Each night, he wrote in the black notebook, chronicling not just facts, but memories, pain, and triumph. Evelyn's sacrifice, Olivia's smile, the price of truth. He wrote as if for someone else. If you're reading this, you survived. Maybe you found hope, or maybe the past is hunting you still. Know this: you were never alone. He sent a final encrypted report to his journalist allies and the International Task Force. Names, places, warning signs, the methods Eden Route might use to rebuild. The document was signed only with a butterfly, Evelyn's legacy. 2 days before he disappeared, he received another envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single photograph, the Vancouver skyline at night. A blurred figure in the foreground, a child, or someone meant to look like one. On the back, typed in cold black ink, "You saved some, but not all." Mason felt the familiar surge of dread, but also a kind of resolve. He doubled the security on his email and cloud drives. He called Jules, who had been living in a recovery center working on his own healing. Their conversation was strained. Jules was hopeful, but Mason could hear fear in his voice that the monsters had only changed faces. "They won't stop," Mason said. "But neither will we." He left a message for Olivia's adoptive mother, careful and loving. Just in case, tell her to keep drawing. Tell her to trust her dreams. That night, he packed a small bag, the black notebook, the photo of Evelyn, a USB drive holding his full archive, a copy of Olivia's first butterfly drawing. He made tea, sat by the window, and watched the city wake up. He wrote one last entry in the journal, his handwriting steady, measured. Some stories end quietly. Some become shadows, warnings for the next child who wonders if anyone will ever listen. The truth is, darkness never truly dies, but neither does hope. If I disappear, let my story be a lantern for those still lost. Let Evelyn's sacrifice and yours mean something. There is no perfect victory, only the refusal to surrender. Protect each other. Remember the roots. Water the light. He signed it. Mason Carter. The next morning, Mason was gone. No note, no packed bag, just the warm mug of tea still on the kitchen table, the faint smell of rain blowing through the cracked window, and a world changed by his courage but not yet healed. The police found no sign of struggle, no forced entry. His laptop was wiped. All that remained was the black notebook on his desk, the photograph of Evelyn placed on its cover, and a single envelope addressed simply to the next guardian. Olivia would receive it years later when she was ready, her new mother's hands trembling as she passed it to her. She'd find Mason's story inside every detail, every heartbreak, and every small hope. There nestled in the final page, a butterfly drawn in trembling ink with a message beneath. If you are reading this, the darkness is not gone. But neither am I. And neither are you. Keep going. For Evelyn, for all of us, for yourself. As the sun rose over Vancouver, a city both haunted and healing, the world continued on. Some would say Mason Carter was just another victim lost to the shadows. But those who knew the children, the families, the other guardians, understood the truth. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is keep fighting, even when no one sees. And sometimes, to keep the light alive, you have to vanish into the dark so someone else can find their way home. Eden Root was broken, but not dead. But in that little room with a notebook and a photograph, a seed of defiance remained. And in every heart that read Mason's story, a new guardian awoke, ready to answer the darkness one more time. 20 years have passed since the night Mason Carter vanished, leaving behind a notebook, a legend, and an unfinished promise. The world has changed in quiet ways, laws rewritten, social workers trained to recognize scars that can't be seen. Survivor networks blossoming in cities once ruled by silence. But some things never change: the hunger of darkness, the vulnerability of a lost child, the ache of memory that refuses to fade. Olivia Carter stands on the wild, overgrown land where Foster House once squatted in shadows and rain. She is a woman now, 30, with strong shoulders, warm eyes, and a gravity that draws people to her. The notebook Mason left is worn soft in her hands, the edges stained with tears, the pages covered in notes of her own names. Sketches of butterflies, lines of poetry maps, and stories from children all over the world. All around her, survivors and families gather, some with graying hair and children of their own, others still uncertain, still healing. There's Jules, steadier now, laughter lines creasing his cheeks as he helps set the final stones. There are children, dozens of them, chasing each other across the field, free and wild, watched over by volunteers, therapists, and guardians in every sense of the word. The monument rises from the grass, a simple circle of black granite, smooth as river rock, inscribed with a single phrase: "To the guardians in the dark." In the center, a sculpture, a child's hand outstretched, a swarm of iron butterflies bursting from the palm, each wing engraved with a survivor's name. At the statue's feet, fresh flowers, stuffed animals, and tiny lanterns flicker against the growing dusk. As Olivia reads aloud from Mason's notebook, her voice carries through the crowd, steady and strong. Memory can be hidden, but truth and hope are never extinguished. Even when we are lost, we can choose to be found. And when the night feels endless, we become each other's light. Tears shimmer on many faces. For the first time, parents of the missing are not alone in their grief. Survivors once hidden by shame speak openly. I was there. I survived. You can too. Their stories, stitched together, become a net catching those who fall, lifting them toward dawn. After the ceremony, Olivia kneels by the base of the monument and opens the notebook one last time. She adds a final line in bold, careful script for Mason, for Evelyn, for all who fought. The story goes on. Later, she walks the field tracing the old paths through the ruins of Foster House, now reclaimed by moss and wildflowers. She finds the stump of the ancient pine tree roots, gnarled and deep, and sits quietly, letting memory wash over her. Mason's words echo in her mind, the last recording he ever sent unearthed years after his disappearance. We are made of stories. They try to erase us, but every child who finds a home, every secret that is spoken, every kindness given in the dark, that is rebellion. We are never truly alone, not if we remember. Olivia rises, dusts off her knees, and returns to the gathering. A young woman approaches, scared, clutching a duffel bag. The haunted look Olivia knows too well. She kneels, offers a smile, and gently places a butterfly sticker in the girl's hand. "You're safe now," she whispers. "Welcome home." In the fading light, the monument glows with candles and hope. Survivors link hands, forming a living circle around the children. As the sky bruises toward twilight, someone releases a box of butterflies, onyx black, their wings iridescent in the sun's last rays. They rise together, swirling above the crowd, dark against the fading gold, then scatter toward the distant mountains. Olivia tilts her head back, eyes tracking the flight. She remembers Mason's promise and Evelyn's sacrifice, and all the children whose names are now written in stone. She understands what it means to be a guardian, not someone without fear, but someone who acts anyway, building bridges out of pain, forging families out of hope. In the final moments, the camera lingers on Olivia, standing among friends and strangers, her face luminous in the dusk. She closes the notebook, presses it to her chest, and smiles, a beacon to all who wander. Her voice, carrying Mason's legacy, drifts over the field. We are the memory, we are the light, we are the guardians in the dark, and we will not be forgotten. As the monument blazes in the darkness, the black butterflies wheel upward, silhouetted against the dawn. The story ends, but hope remains, never extinguished, never alone, carried forward by the hands and hearts of those who remember and those who choose to save the next child. The screen fades out on a sky alive with wings, dark shapes rising toward the sun, unstoppable, eternal.